Hello. Can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well. Excellent.
Wonderful.
So
Lovely.
it's still evening in the UK as well. I suppose that's where you are.
Yes, yes, it is. Enjoying the lovely Devonshire countryside today. How about
Wow.
yourself?
Yeah. Let me just briefly introduce myself. Yeah, I'm doing fine, by the way. I'm almost a little bit nervous to get because of the technology to make sure that it's working, but it's working well. So my name is Johannes. I started speaking on TikTok years ago because I felt the need to express my political beliefs. And then I found your account because I was looking for women of the right to bring them on, basically conservative women, to give them a sort of platform to talk about, what you believe. And then I found your account, and it's just a few days old, isn't it?
Yes, I've only just been, I suppose, vague warmongering for the past 3 days now.
Warmongering.
I joke, I kid.
Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit and tell a little bit about yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Roisin. I'm from London and currently under the Labour regime. So I felt compelled to come out and just talk about what's been going on as the media fails to cover it.
All right. Yes. So we already discussed a little bit some questions. So I think I'm just going to go over that, and then we can have some discussion on whatever comes up, right? So you just mentioned you start speaking also like to expose a little bit of what's going on in Britain. Maybe just for starters, how would you describe the situation in Britain politically, and what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I'll start off by giving a statistic. So 12,000 people were arrested this year for speaking out on social media. So you can imagine the state of affairs. They're currently trying to silence the protests at the moment, which I have been attending over the last few years. And they are just really trying to scare and create fear amongst just the general public who are just worried parents about their children, about this problem with the hotels. So that really compelled me because I felt very inspired by some of the mothers I saw who were, had nothing to lose really, but they were so afraid of what's happening to our country. They were taking to the streets. And, the media is obviously trying to suppress this.
Right, because last year you had the Southport riots after those girls were, killed. And do you think this is like a succession of what happened last year, like a repeat?
So I think it's a blend of it's a repeat certainly, but it's more insidious because this is more calculated, whereas that was more of a I don't know how much I can say on live. Obviously, I don't want to cause problems.
Yeah, be careful.
Yeah, that was an attack essentially, but this one is more an attack from a calculated attack and not from a outward enemy. It's more of an inward one. So. It's very complex, the situation at the moment.
Right. Well, you just mentioned we have to watch our words always. Even on TikTok, you can get censored very quickly. I don't know if you've experienced this already. Your comments were deleted.
Really hard, yes.
So how do you experience then the free speech climate under Keir Starmer? You mentioned 12,000 people have been arrested, but even for very simple things like just complaining about migrants can get you arrested.
Yes, yeah, it can. So Lucy Connolly, I don't know if you've heard of this lady.
Yeah.
She's serving 2 years in prison at the moment for tweeting a not so wise social media tweet after the Southport attacks. She was obviously very upset and she deleted it and they served her with a 2-year sentence. So, of course the people are worried, but I think as well that the political climate of our country it's just so... They've done so much now that the people are they've had enough and they're not even afraid to go to prison anymore because it's so miserable already that people just don't care.
Right, so it's all gone too far. Like you'd say, the government repression is so bad, people are just willing to risk it.
Well, quite. I mean, I could lose my job. I have my government name on my profile, but I really don't care because I'd rather see that happen than be silenced by an oppressive force.
Right. if you end up in jail or something for speech, then it makes you almost a martyr nowadays.
Yeah, well, I mean, they'd be pretty unwise to do that because I would make an absolute mess. And, politically speaking, I mean, because so many people have been censored. So there's a grassroots movement basically in England at the moment that is not being covered. And everyone I speak to is of the same opinion, whether they were left or they were far right before, whether they were political or apolitical. There's one thing we have in common, and we don't want to be invaded, and we don't want our children assaulted. So this is bringing everyone together.
So how would you describe yourself politically? Do you think you're like more than conservative or more radical than that? How would you position yourself a little bit?
Well, how do I answer this diplomatically?
Or maybe just say what's most important to you that's going on in the country, like immigration. Is that it?
No, I'd say everything's quite important. I mean, it's all kind of intertwined. But I'll give you another sort of crazy thing that happened the other day. They've updated the .gov UK website. So what constitutes as far-right terrorism currently is being ethnocentric. I'm not going to say I'm ethnocentric for obvious reasons, but I would say I love my country and my people, and I'm a Catholic. So that would probably be my religion, my political standpoint.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I was baptized Roman Catholic. People are sending all sorts of. Yeah. On a side note, I thought Britain was largely Protestant or something. I don't quite know how it is, but is the Catholic community very large there?
Well, it is now, seeing as the Anglican Church has, driven everyone in droves to the font, so to speak, from their LGBT activities.
Right. Didn't they want to change it into like the Temple of England instead of the Church of England?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They've got rainbow flags outside all of their churches and gay priests living together, so it's not really inspiring if you're young.
I guess that turns people off, yeah.
I would imagine so. Someone looking for tradition, yes, it could do.
In one of your videos, you spoke about this recent conference. I also heard about it. That's why I thought the video was so interesting. It's about this distinction between, do you support your ancestry or just values, right? So do you really decouple your political value system from the people you are supposed to represent? That's what happened in every Western nation, in Britain, but also every European country, Germany, France, the Netherlands. So I'm Dutch, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
I did, yes. Yeah,
okay.
Fantastic.
Right. And so if you can't even trust the so-called people who call themselves conservatives anymore, what sort of political movements do you know of or are perhaps involved in that may offer better options? And even if even Nigel Farage is basically a liberal woke person.
More liberal than Keir Starmer currently, starts in trends.
Yeah. So would you, what sort of like movements do you know about in Britain or so that you would trust?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Johannes. There is not one good political party currently in the UK, which is a big problem. However, what I do see is a lot of young, articulate...
I heard some loud...
I think you got some roses, or I got roses. I don't know who got roses.
Probably.
So, there's a lot of young people. We do have advance, obviously, from Rupert Lowe. He was ousted by... Yusuf Sia, who's the new partner of Reform, who's just kind of infiltrated it with loads of other people of his denomination. But otherwise, I would just say, we're just kind of relying on our own grassroots movement at the moment with these young people. It's like a party in here.
Yeah.
I would welcome being liberated by America. That's an idea.
Yeah.
Trump, if you're listening, our army is terrible and not fit for purpose, so it would be very easy for you to liberate us. But other than that,
right.
I think, Rupert Lowe has a party. Not a party, it's a movement. But there's not one good political movement at the moment. We have UKIP, which is a very infantile sort of fractured far-right group, but that's about it. That's all we have.
Yeah, it's the same in the Netherlands. I've been looking for all sorts of organizations or parties I might join, and it's just not satisfactory. It's very difficult to. I think I can speak reasonably well, and I would love to do speeches, but I need to be with some kind of organization I can trust, and I have not really found that. So it's really working from the ground up, as you mentioned, like grassroots, right? That's why I speak on TikTok. You reach your audience. I hope you will also grow a big account, right? So let's say Farage is like a containment politician, meaning he's there to prevent from people from becoming, say, ethno-nationalistic or something, from going too far to the right. He's trying to stop that, maybe. Do you think that's really his job, or is it just something he accidentally does?
Well, I can't figure it out, to be honest with you. I don't know if he's controlled a position or if he's just a businessman. But either one is not going to save England, that's for sure. But yeah, I mean, there's a few conspiracies about this man. He's obviously, very friendly with our Muslim friends.
Yeah. Yeah, I was always surprised that Farage brought on the Sikh community, and he's taking money from some Muslim billionaires. He can do whatever he wants, but he's not representing Britain that way. He's not representing the English people, so to speak. And that's a bit of a letdown. Since seriously, a few years ago, I thought Farage was he was in the EU back then in Brussels, always doing good speeches. I thought, hey, this guy is good. And now he's like totally the opposite.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I think it's a big issue amongst the boomers as well, because even the boomers and the far rights who want changes, from their side, they obviously just kind of, it's very surface level about their research. So they saw reform, they got excited, and now everyone is going to vote reform. And obviously the immigration policies they have are abysmal. He's saying it's not possible for us to send anyone back. And if we lose the Muslim support, we lost England. He literally said that the other day. So he's definitely not going to solve it. He's going to make it worse. So they are going to vote for him, most of the boomers, because, they don't really... It's just the tip of the iceberg that they look at most of the time.
Yeah, that's like also an incredible betrayal, really, between, the boomer generation. I'm not yet a boomer, but the boomer generation is like...
I didn't think you were.
But they adopted the value-based conservatism, decoupled from the people. And they're actively, when they say they favor immigration, they're also saying we don't really care about our own people's survival. Like, we don't care if our own young can have houses and jobs in their own country anymore because, we can get so much better deals from other people coming in. Right? And do you also feel that that kind of betrayal is like an emotional sensation, right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that they've sold their children for virtue signaling. Essentially, they want to look good in front of other people. That's the boomer sort of ideology. They want to it's save face, look good in front of their neighbours, and they're just very irresponsible people, which is understandable because they grew up in the 60s, the Charles Manson era of free love and all of this mad LSD stuff. So it's no wonder that they have no accountability for their actions, because that's kind of the era. But now, obviously, we have double the responsibility because we have to fix everything for the future generation as well. Mm-hmm. They just seem to think, well, if I just vote reform, it will just, right all the wrongs. But,
right. So reform is turning... Yeah, reform is turning into like your Tory party, but they're already liberal anyway. So exactly. Nothing really changes. Right. A while back, I went to this conservative think tank just to listen what the speakers had to say. And I felt that a lot of them were like that. They were dressed like conservatives, but they spoke like more liberal people. It's almost as though liberals simply infiltrated the whole conservative movements and made everything leftist liberal, right? Yeah. So what bothers me about that is that there's no alternative. You've got no options left. Do you believe there is still a political way forward then? If everything is basically captured, then what do we do?
Well, that is a very good question. And I've spoken to a few different people about this. And some people think that civilization needs to crumble for it to be reforged again, which, is obviously going to get a lot worse before it gets better again in that aspect. or there will be a last minute in the 11th hour saviour political party. I was really hopeful that Ant Middleton would get in as Mayor of London because he's like the real deal. He's about as English as you could possibly make him. He's a Navy SEALs, and he's super, anti any rubbish in the Parliament. He was even threatening to deport Sadiq Khan at one point, which I found very funny. But I mean, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen at this point because of Nigel Farage's Islamic gathering. So we might have to take this into our own hands, unfortunately.
Yeah. We're going to have to, in all of Europe, it's going to be like a European movement. I myself, I looked so much to Britain because I think the Netherlands situation is bad in terms of free speech restrictions, but I always felt that Britain nowadays is far worse. But you can see what's coming. They have like the Online Safety Act, and they're really using it already to suppress people's voices. You have to show your ID on TikTok, for example. Yeah, this is getting dystopian.
It's communism, pure communism.
Yeah.
It's insane. Insanity. And it's hilarious because all my Eastern European friends here, they cannot believe that there are English people that exist that can't see it for what it is because they grew up. And they even say to me, I fled from a communist country to come to and live in the free country. And it's even worse because it's more gay. So.
Yeah. This whole trans movement thing, they explain it as a sort of self-expression. That's how they call it, right? It's the right to self-expression. So how can you oppose it? You're a fascist. But isn't it more like, since you're not giving your young people a future anyway, they're not getting housing and so on, why not break them, basically? Why not harm them reproductively since you're planning to replace them anyway with cheaper migrants or so? Do you think that there's something insidious about this movement that is perhaps meant to harm women also, like in women's sports, the men are taking their medals and so on? What do you think is going on there? Well, how do you explain all this?
Well, I think it's divide and conquer. So I think firstly, they want us to stop breeding because there's nothing more frightening to the globalists than big, strong, blonde families. We know that. So they don't want us to have, European children, basically. Because as we've seen with the British Empire, there's not one stone left untouched by the British Empire. We were the strongest empire in the whole world. We conquered everywhere. And that was because we had faith, family values, and we stuck together. So the divide and conquer strategy of the globalist, Marxist, evil, whatever you want to call them, regime that it is they don't want us having babies. So how can we do that? Well, let's castrate them. How can we castrate them? Oh, we can brainwash them. So they've brainwashed us into hating each other on top of everything. So the ones that aren't castrated already hate each other. And they've just kind of given us no incentive to have families because everything's so expensive.
Yeah, it's really about
they're targeting
reproductive sabotage, eh?
Absolutely, yes, correct.
Right. So I was just before I went live, I posted a video about the concept of luxury beliefs. This is a book by Rob Henderson from the USA, I believe. And it's about the fact that the upper classes can afford to believe certain things, such as they're for transgenderism, they're for defunding the police, things like that, that may give them the air of status, but are actually harming the people they represent. And I think that's just basically the problem. We have the people who are now in power of the Western world, the Western countries, they just want to look good, but not necessarily do good for their people. And it's just harming us. They're just deliberately harming us. I don't know. I just think that's really sad. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really sad. And I think, obviously as a Christian, I believe in the end we win regardless. However, we do have an obligation to our children to give them something they can inherit, to enjoy, and to continue our lineage and our heritage. I mean, if you went to any other country in the world, if I went to India and I said, I want to be Indian and I want to live here, I'm Indian now, does that make me an Indian? No, it doesn't.
People wouldn't believe you.
They would kick me out. There'd be outrage, outcries. If I learn how to, if my parents moved to Japan before, and I was born in a Japanese hospital, and I speak Japanese and I eat sushi, does it make me Japanese? It doesn't. It makes me a child of an expat of parents that moved to Japan. So why is our heritage up for debate constantly? Because they want to see us gone.
Right. And that's why you also see in every movie nowadays, in every historical drama, they're replacing characters from the Middle Ages with sub-Saharans that were never there. Even they say that some North Africans were living in Britain in the Middle Ages, but they were light-skinned, fair-skinned people, not pitch dark, right? It's just insane. I find that the most evil part of all of this. They're erasing our history as though we never existed.
Yeah.
All right,
and if you go against it, you're a racist.
Yeah,
you're a racist. You're not being inclusive because you don't let them take your history from you. So.
Right. And that's an argument for like, well, if you never existed anyway, then no one will miss you when you're gone. It's just so evil. That's why people like you and I, we have to keep speaking, because people, the normies, they need to wake up. Do you think that's possible? By the way, do you think you can wake up the normies?
Well, I'm trying my best, actually, in general. And I think, the problem I see in London, so I'm from London originally, and I've since evacuated because London is officially a caliphate. It's
not emigrated, but evacuated.
Evacuated, yes.
Wow.
It is evacuation because it's just unlivable now. It's so dangerous. If you're a blonde girl and you live in London, God help you, because it's awful. Birmingham is a caliphate. Manchester is a caliphate. They're all caliphates. So I had to go to Devon. It was the final frontier where there's any kind of form of English normality civilization left. And the problem I see with the normies down here is that they've never lived with them before. They're not familiar with their ways of the cultural enrichment that they bring to the neighbourhood. So they are of the idea that everyone is a blank slate and we can all live together. However,
they haven't had the bad experiences.
They haven't had the pleasure, and they haven't had to pay for it either. So, as soon as a migrant hotel opens up or they get a new neighbour from a diverse background, then they start to understand. And then I say, I told you so. But until that happens, I'm a fascist, essentially, if I bring this up with people down here, because they really are brainwashed. They don't understand what it's like. Right.
I was reading an article about that conference we were talking about before, and it quotes here that Niall Ferguson argued that Europe would die without African immigration. This kind of rhetoric is, of course, not true, because when they favor immigration, they don't invest in families. Why don't these European countries, I think only Hungary does it. They have programs for young women trying to get married, and they can get a tax discount, and we don't see it anywhere else. So what's going on here? Why don't we fund our own families anymore?
Well, exactly. I mean, when he says that as well, can I just make a segue there? What has Africa ever invented, for starters? I mean, what have they ever given us, honestly? I mean, so that's an already shambolic argument, and there's no foundation that bears truth on that. But going back to what you were saying, yes, well, there's a reason that we're not funding that, and that's because they can't control us if we have strong, big families. That's what I think. Essentially, because I can't imagine why they would want to do something so evil, if not but to try to control us. Right.
They're shattering are demoralizing us and then breaking our resolve.
Yes, and gaslighting us. And what I noticed as well is so I lived in the Middle East briefly for a couple of years. I was working there. And what I noticed is that, other nationalities who built the Middle East, I won't say who, but they have a certain mentality. They are good labourers, let's say, or slaves, if you will. Modern day slavery is still rife in their country, so it's no wonder. However, we were the first to abolish slavery, the Europeans, so this is not in our, framework. It's not in our biological blueprint even to be a slave kind of mentality. No. So by them kind of replacing us with these laborious-minded people, it's natural that they can kind of battery farm mass workers, and that's what they want, basically. They want to just farm us, and they can't farm us. That's the problem.
Yeah, they can't farm us because we don't want to be slaves. And I think that's a good point. A lot of middle-class white people, they want to have kids, but they don't want to have 7 kids and then send 5 of them to the factories. They want to have the 2 they can send to university. Okay, I get it. You want to have better quality. You don't want your kids to end up in the lower classes. I understand that. But it's clearly problematic when we basically outsource our labor to people we are importing, all right? Because they have that mentality. Because maybe also they're still motivated to work for the lower wages available here. To them, it's all new and still luxury. So I get it, but it's just so wrong that we focus on the economic benefits and totally disregard even the future of our own people.
Absolutely.
Right? And this makes me quite emotional. Yeah.
I know it makes me want to cry because, we're just such a beautiful people. I mean, I regard all of Europe as brother and sister. As an English person to a Dutch man, we're brethren. And we also have a recessive gene. So if we start kind of, mixing with other cultures, we lose that. And, okay, you can call me a, ethnocentrist or whatever. I'm not for government purposes, but
all right.
Just so I don't go on a list somewhere. But, it is a fact that, if you start, doing that with other people, you completely lose your DNA, your ancestry. Because you become unrecognizable.
It appears this is really the plot that they're executing just for the money, I suppose, or the wealth that they can have. I'm the total opposite. I want to fight for all the other things. And of course, we need money to fund a life and families and so on. But money is not the goal. The goal is our people's development, in a difficult word, the apotheosis, like what is our end goal of us being here on earth at all? That's what we should be striving for. And they're not helping us, these so-called leaders in politics and so on. It's just painful. Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. It's terrible. It's just really terrible what's happening. It's basically a genocide against us because we can't fight
genocide.
back again. We can't fight back. And it's funny, I was thinking about this today. So in Israel, if they became like a minority in their own country, it would just be, it would be a national threat. Like everyone would be freaking out. But when we become a minority in our country, it's good because it's the melting pot. It's cultural enrichment. But I mean, we have a species. We're our own race as well. And we need to be protected. And actually, we are more rare than any other race. There's like only 17% of us make up the population of the planet. So we're actually the actual minority.
Yeah, we are the global minority. So it's funny that people who have like 1 billion other people in their own countries, they come to ours claiming to be minorities or something. What are you doing? I always felt like something that makes a lot of migrants mad is they can come to places like Britain and turn it into where they're from, but they can never turn their own countries into what we used to be. It's simply very humiliating for them when they realize that they can only make our places worse. I think they're aware of that,
Yeah, well, I mean, it just bemuses me because every time I have the pleasure of talking to one of these colourful characters, they like to remind me of, the Ottoman Empire and how amazing our country is. Okay, well, if you love Islam so much, go and live in one of the many countries that has Islam. There's a whole Muslim world out there, and we don't want anything to do with it, by the way. We've been trying to stop you from coming here for 2,000 years. And it's hilarious to me how the schools have just completely eradicated the Crusades from the history and how they were such a terrible thing. Well, no, actually, the Crusades were a response to the constant hostility of Islamists on the Christian people. They burnt churches. They were doing stuff to nuns. They were doing stuff to priests. It was unbelievable. I can't say here because we're on live, but I'm sure you're aware of what happened because you're a Catholic.
Definitely. I know a really good book about this. It was called God's Battalions by Rodney Stark. And it explains that the Crusades were about Christian pilgrims wanting to have safe passage to Jerusalem to visit. And they were being robbed all the time by Muslim marauders or so. And they just wanted to clear up that route to have safe passage to Jerusalem. And that's what the first Crusades were really about. It was religiously inspired, not at all to genocide people or harm people. It was just, for a Christian reason. But they totally turn it around. Same thing with the Vikings and the Crusaders. They make us look bad in history to make others look better. It's such a betrayal. It's just incredible.
And you know, they like to talk about slavery. I found out a funny fact the other day. So, you know, you mentioned the Vikings and the Arabs. So they used to sell Celtic, because I'm actually half Irish, half English. So they used to sell Irish people, or Celtic people, modern day Irish people, to the Arabs because they found an Arabic dirham penny in Viking ruins all the way in Norway recently. So that's just proof that they were the ones who were doing atrocities on us. And it's just funny to me how people like Robert Toombs and other historians can sort of twist and massage the facts to kind of suit their virtue signaling boomer narrative.
Right. Robert Toombs was that man at that conference we were talking about, right? He said something that to be British, you just learn to speak English, and you can have your hijab, and you can have all that. Just speak English and be here, and you're a real...
Yeah. He said, actually, if you can recite Kipling, then you can be English. So that's funny because that would beg so by that logic of that definition, if two English people have had a child and that child doesn't know about Kipling, so he's not English, like what is that child then?
I think
he's just nothing, or?
I think I must have read Kipling, so I must be half British almost now.
You must be, yeah. Sorry.
That's weird. Yeah, that's not the definition of British. It's clearly you have to look to your ancestry to see what you are. It does matter where you're from. It's a really bad idea if we reduce people just to blank slate education. No, that would be the end of everything, right?
So someone just wrote, not sure Kipling would have agreed. No, I don't think you would have.
Oh, okay.
It's very healing that you say that, actually. It's healed me a lot that you're just saying the truth. You're like mirroring back to me what I'm saying to you, and it's actually just a very healing experience.
It's healing, right.
Yes.
I had this last week with another British lady. She was also quite eloquent, and I noticed that when you talk to your allies, your brain becomes happy because I am tired of debating leftists on Twitter or X or so on. That's just really nasty. I don't want to do that anymore. We need to come together to build our alliances, right? To have our support systems in place, find out who we can trust, and then we move forward basically as a sort of new European elite, because the old elites, they either messed up or they're deliberately abandoning us. Whatever they're doing, it's not good.
Yeah, they're traitors, and we won't forget who they are
traitors,
either.
Yeah.
They're absolute traitors. And I tell you, I have a lot of friends here in political parties. I have friends in UKIP. I have friends everywhere. And I'm making sure that I stay in alliance with all of them. And we are all going to remember the people that betrayed us, whether you're English or not. When it happens, you're going to wish that you were on the right side of history. Because
Absolutely,
there's no wrath like Europeans once we've unleashed it. So.
That is something I totally agree with. I can't wait for that wrath to unfold. It's like first we go after the traitors and then the enemies. I think it's in that order because the traitors they're really bad to us. I want to quote a little bit from an article I wrote by Morgoth Review. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he mentioned something interesting about the emerging generation of young men on the British right often appears like an elite in waiting. And this to me ties in a little bit with the theory of elite overproduction. Basically, there's too many educated people in the Western world, too many educated white people, but not enough elite positions. And so what happens is you see the formation of an entirely new elite. I saw a picture of you and this young man called Young Bob. I think he's also involved in politics, right? It's that kind of people who are starting out to become the whole new wing in our world, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's such a great guy. I saw him in one of the protests we were attending at the Barbican Hotel the other day, and actually he was viciously attacked last night in Speaker's Corner. So we have a Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park where kind of historically all of the minds and the philosophers kind of get together and have their debates. But obviously it's been completely overrun by you-know-who. So he was, he's a young kid. He's like 23, I think. He's really young. And he's out there every night preaching the gospel and arguing with the Islamists about Jesus.
Wow, so, that's great.
He's amazing. But he was rushed yesterday by 7 people. Thank God he's not hurt. But they beat him up yesterday. Because
is anybody arrested for that, or? Nothing.
Of course not. I mean, we think all the police are jihadists, aren't they? So
they would arrest him for speaking, right?
He would have been arrested from him, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's good to see that we have some all sorts of people willing to stick their necks out, despite that the climate is getting worse. The hate speech laws are getting more strict, right? It's getting worse to speak out, but we have to keep doing it. This whole system needs to go down, basically.
Absolutely. And I think the more pressure they put on the people, the more fed up we are. It's like a pressure cooker. It's going to explode eventually, because you cannot suppress that for so long. You can't keep putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. It's going to rip off. And when it does, it's going... I mean, there's been protest all over England. It hasn't stopped the whole summer. And I'm sure you've heard nothing about it. Well, you probably have, because you're very educated.
On TikTok,
man.
yeah, but
TikTok,
mainstream news, no.
Absolute crickets. So that's because it's every day. And I know because my friends are all there and they send me stuff. But there's just, St. George's flags littered across the streets now. And I've never seen so many English flags before, because we've been told that it's a racist flag. There was a little girl, she went to school and she wore a beautiful, flag dress. She wanted to be from the Spice Girls, Jerry Halliwell, for Culture Day. So she went to school and did that. They told her to go home.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so...
That's crazy,
Yeah.
Right, because these schools, I assume, are like 80-90% non-English anyway. So they think it's offensive?
Yeah, they get offended by it. So when I was younger, this was about 20 years ago, I went to primary school. And I was a minority. There was only 2 English kids in the whole class.
Wow.
And that was 20 years ago. So you can imagine how bad it is now.
That's crazy. Yeah, I remember going to school. I had a mostly white upbringing, basically. My schools were white. But now, if I would go to my primary school, I would discover that they're actually planning to turn it into an Islamic school. Basically, that whole neighborhood used to be Catholic, and they're all gone, no more kids. And they're putting Muslim kids in there now, so many of them that they needed to allocate them to a school, and they chose my primary school. So I think that's just erasure. They're erasing the past.
Yeah, they're erasing our future and our past. And what I heard today, which was very damning. So the Home Office in the UK. So David Lammy is like the thickest man in England. He's just an abominable person.
No,
I'm sure you've probably heard of him. In the Home Office, there is a scandal about to appear at the moment because the Muslims have been hiring each other, and there was an Afghani man just. He was sacked and jailed because he was taking bribes from asylum seekers. So the whole of the Home Office is like 70% run by Muslims at the moment. So that is why also we are getting, it's not just illegal migration, it's all migration. We are just getting pillaged right now.
Right. And then you have these boomer conservatives. They're like totally on board with multiculturalism, right? And they only hate Islamic extremism, but they don't mind you being swamped with Islam, right? Yeah. That's just...
Yeah, they don't mind war crimes against their children.
Right. No, I think there's like a UN charter that says that if there's a genocide going on somewhere, we are nowadays required to intervene or do something about it. But of course, that's why they will always deny that what's happening to us with immigration is genocide. They will say, no, that's not happening. Because if it were, they'd have to do something.
I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's probably worse than some of the Middle Eastern countries of what's happening to us. It's like they have used a bioweapon against us.
Yeah, they're bioweapons. Yeah, I use that word as well. It's an attack on our people. Yeah. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about possible solutions or how to go forward or what to do. We spoke about the grassroots movements. We're going to do that anyway. And then somehow at some point, we got to break through that hate speech wall where we can just finally basically say what we really think on many topics and be heard, and something has to be done, right? Do you have any idea of what you would do next, say the next, 10 years or so? What do you think is feasible?
Well, it's going to be a very rocky next couple of years. That's what I can see. However, I really do feel like there's such a large momentum at the moment, just from being outside and going to protests and things. Everyone is fed up. I mean, I've never been in a political climate where even if you get into a taxi, even the taxi driver is like, we don't want this. We're tired. Everyone is ready for it, and everyone's willing to fight for it. So that would suggest that I actually watched one of your videos recently, and I found it super interesting. It was what you were saying about if all hell broke loose, basically, and in 10 years' time, then I think you mentioned the European blonde women being hunted by these groups.
Possibly.
A very black-pilled video, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was very interesting. But I did watch something similar to that, and it was from the Lotus Eaters, and they were saying, they put into AI what could potentially be the two outcomes in the next 10 years or 20 years if nothing changes. And it was either kind of this Islamist dystopian sort of future where the whites and minorities, and we live in fringes, in enclaves, and there's always kind of like approaching war and then retreating war, but we're just under constant attack all the time.
All right.
And they're trying to take our women and children. So obviously that's a worst case scenario that we don't want. A more positive one would be that everyone needs to rise up now. And I think it's important to know these worst case scenarios, because that is reality, and that will happen if we don't do something now. We have to move now, because we don't have time for another political party.
No, we need to get organized now, because in 5 years we need to have some successes already. It's going to be, maybe I have some questions about, are you quite religious? Do you see Christianity, like a revival of Christianity, playing a role in this, in organizing our peoples?
I absolutely do. And that is because our British values and our European values, we've been shaped on Christianity for the last 2,000 years. But not in the sense that the Protestantism, the boomer rhetoric is trying to push on us. We've never been, a turn the other cheek kind of culture. We've been, love thy neighbour, but defend thy family and thy faith as well. And I think people are coming back to orthodoxy, the Zoomers specifically, they like Catholicism. There's a lot of, all the Zoomers that I know that are Catholics go to Latin Mass, for example, myself included. Whereas, the Novice Ordo is kind of like a boomer sort of haven as well. And I think that's pretty telling, because we want to see action. And Christianity, if you love God and you believe and you know that in the end you win regardless, you will fight to the death. You will fight tooth and nail for what's right, for truth. And you will not be quiet, because you have God behind you. And
I think that spiritual backing.
We need the spirituality, because that's why the globalists want to promote atheism. It's the same with the Soviet Union, communism, the Bolsheviks. They all kind of wanted this sort of narrative to divorce us from family and faith, because without the family, you don't have strength, and without the faith, you don't have complete and utter resolve that no matter what happens, everything is fine, because you have God on your side.
Right. I think that might become a problem to our elites, because they are thinking in terms of an economic war between East and West, but it might turn out to be more of a spiritual war between Christianity and Islam, for example, at least in Europe, right? I think we've been speaking for 45 minutes or so. Usually I kind of clock it off around there. Maybe would you mind giving us like a sort of vision of the future you would like to live in to wrap it up?
Yeah, I would love to. Well, in a perfect world, I would love to live in a future where I just see big European strong families, lots of babies, just us coming together. And I don't want to see this kind of these communists needing to buy, needing to consume. I think we should all just go and live on a homestead together and just make our own stuff as we used to do. Have plenty of children, plenty of land, plenty of horses, and we'll just heal ourselves. We don't need to be around anyone else. We can just have each other.
I love that idea of returning to rural areas, basically, getting away from the diverse urban centers and healing again.
Yes.
All right. So if you have something more to say, go ahead. But otherwise, I think we can wrap it up. I thank you very, very much for coming on. Hopefully we'll talk again sometime. We'll stay in touch.
Absolutely.
Right?
Thank you so much. And I'm a huge fan of your work as well. It's just been wonderful to be able to speak to you. It's been very healing also. So.
Yes. So we'll keep sharing each other's content, I suppose, to spread the message and get the normies on board. And then I wish you a very nice evening, and hope to speak to you soon sometime.
Likewise. God bless you, Johannes. Take care
All
of
right.
yourself.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.